Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday, and you know what that means.
Front Office Friday! End of the first round edition.
Oh, end of the first round edition. Let's go. We've got so much to talk about today. We can talk about some trade rumors, some potential free agent destinations. We're going to talk about a pretty gross incident that happened last night. And Keith and I haven't talked about it yet, but he already knows what I'm talking about. We'll talk about that. We'll take your questions and comments. Lots to get into on this fine Front Office Friday. So welcome in. For those of you joining over on the YouTube side, and if you have not subscribed yet to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're coming in over on X, whether it's Keith's account at Keith Smith NBA or mine at Trevor_Lane, welcome in. We've got a lot to talk about here. Keith, what? Oh, I'm going to save this. Let's start with NBA stuff, but I've got a super chat here asking a superhero question from me, apparently.
Described as Scottie Pippen, I think.
Scottie Pippen as me is asking this question. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's start with some NBA talk before we get to the scheduled nonsense. So let's just get into it here. Knicks, Sixers. The Sixers almost did it again, Keith. They were down, like 9, and then they came all the way back. It looked like maybe they were going to do it again and force a game 7, and then the Knicks did some incredible things. Josh Hart hit a big shot. Phenomenal series. That wound up being the most fun series of the first round. Knicks Sixers was, and quite a battle, and I'm happy to see that the Knicks moved on. I thought they were the better of the two teams, but the Sixers, give them credit for putting up a fight and making it really, really interesting.
Yeah, without a doubt. Had they gotten anything from Tobias Harris, he scoreless last night. Only took 2 shots in his entire time on the floor. That's just a useless waste of time out there. So that turns into now you've got the Sixers out, and we'll see what happens with Embiid. As far as he is, hopefully going to be able to rest up and be ready to go for the Olympics. We'll see what happens there, but big offseason coming for Philly. They've got a lot kind of to get into here with this offseason. I just put their various kind of, I think they're 3 most realistic cap space scenarios out there on my Twitter account, if anybody wants to see that. But basically, probably going to have somewhere in the range of 60 to 65 million in cap space to add to the team around Embiid and Maxey. And that's where we go from here for Philadelphia, because this is not good enough, right? And we know the injuries, we know everything that happened to put them in this spot, but this is not good enough. This is not where they want to be.
So let me ask you this. The 76ers, there's already, of course, we've talked a lot about Paul George, and he seems to be the guy they would want the most, and it makes sense. He would be a fantastic fit there. But now we're starting to see some other names pop up, specifically the names that popped up today. Jimmy Butler, who wants a max contract extension with the Heat. Maybe if those negotiations don't go so well. Brandon Ingram. So you're talking about trading for players and using that cap room that you've got in order to help facilitate that trade and make it so salary matching isn't as big of a deal. What do you think about those targets for the 76ers?
Yeah, I don't hate either one. I don't love the Butler one. It's using basically all of your cap space to get him, but I don't hate it. I think I'd rather see them go in a slightly younger direction with maybe somebody who can team with Maxey beyond whatever you're going to get out of Embiid. That's the Embiid stuff. It just, to me, feels like we're a little bit on a ticking time bomb, watching the clock, whatever analogy you want to use, where I don't know how much more we're going to get out of him at this level, just because he's not a kid anymore, right? This is not 25-year-old Joel Embiid anymore. He's in his 30s now, and he's in year 10. Like these are, injuries are going to start stacking up, piling up, and we'll see when he goes from there. So yeah, I'm a little nervous about adding an older player, unless your whole idea is, hey, we're going to go for it in the next couple years. We're going to really load up, try to win a championship in the next 2 years, and then we're resetting anyway. If that's where you're going, okay, that's probably fine. I don't hate that idea if you think you can do that. But yeah, it's going to be going to be really, really interesting to see where Philly goes, because we have very, very rarely seen a team in this place where it is this much cap space with 2 all-star players already in place, ready to go. Like, that's not something we generally see.
Keith, I'll tell you what, Jimmy Butler on this team right now would certainly help. He takes him to another level, I think, and there's no question. He's a talented player. Looking at this from a contractual situation, if I am Miami, and this would be painful, but if I'm Miami and Jimmy Butler is saying, I want a max contract or I'm going to be unhappy, I'm going to be a problem. And we've seen what happens when Jimmy Butler's not happy with his team, right? We've seen that. I would be very willing to listen to what Philadelphia had to say if Philadelphia said that. And if I'm Philadelphia, I don't think I would want to do this. Here's the problem with Jimmy Butler. And again, great player. If we're talking about for one season, yeah, hey, sign me up. You give me a playoff run with Jimmy Butler. Let's go. But if he wants a max deal, and that is his incentive to be traded, right? If he's saying Miami's not giving me this deal, this extension that I want, so send me somewhere else, and I'm going to expect that team to do it. Butler's going to be 35. I think he's already shown some signs of slowing down. I don't think I want to be the team to pay Jimmy Butler on a 4-year or even 3-year deal that's going to be a max contract moving forward, because I think the potential is there for that to be a bad deal. If I could get a Brandon Ingram or someone like that, sure. And I don't think Brandon Ingram is as good. I don't think he's the playoff performer, but I worry about the age cliff here with Jimmy Butler, and I would be very wary of making Jimmy Butler the guy that I add this summer if I'm Philadelphia, just because of the future implications that could come along if you are then obligated to give him that max extension.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to pull this up real quick. Brian is right. Please hit that like button for us, just so that everybody knows where, they can find the show. That helps people find the show. It pushes up the YouTube algorithm, and it'll help people find the show, whether they watch this later or they find it live now. Over 1,500 folks in here watch it right now, which is amazing. We're happy to have each and every one of you, but want to keep growing the show, so let's do that. Back to your thing. My biggest problem with Jimmy Butler is age and injuries too. He's an older player. He is broken down now at the end of seasons. Joel Embiid's broken down at the end of every season. We're just in a spot where I don't know that I want to really add another guy that I can't trust to be healthy in April, May, and June when we're playing the games we need to be the most healthy in. So that part I'm a little concerned about. That really does worry me, for them. But again, huge offseason for the 76ers. I would say this with Jimmy Butler too. What do they have to give the Heat in a trade? That's where it probably gets a little sideways. So they don't know that the Heat are going to say, well, let's get Jimmy Butler off the books and let's really reset things. I don't think that's going to be where Miami's looking to go. My guess is ultimately Miami and Jimmy Butler get it worked out and they figure out an extension. It figured out maybe it doesn't need to be all the way at the max. Maybe there's something else they can do there. But my guess is that's probably where that goes.
Yeah, I think if you're Jimmy Butler, you need another team to be out there willing to absorb you. So if I'm Jimmy Butler, if I'm Jimmy Butler's agent, I'm putting out there, oh yeah, Philly could be a great landing spot for us, right? That's what I'm doing. As you see the shadow
that was awesome.
That was fantastic. That was like Halloween style stuff there, like the cat's shadow walks across the back.
Looks like you were gonna have like a monster attack you. Like Godzilla's hanging out in your room there, ready to pounce. So
he's on a path of destruction here right now.
Oh, nice.
He's been walking around. He's walking around the areas of the studio you can't see, and just attacking whatever he can find. But whatever, he's having a good time. He's burning some calories for his
Friday,
his
man.
Here. Yeah,
it's Friday.
Exactly.
He's winding down. He's finishing his work day, so he can have a good weekend. So, all right, what else we got? We got let's get into the Patrick Beverley stuff. Since that was last night too. So for those who haven't seen it, if you apparently just arrived on planet Earth, welcome, to planet Earth, or woke up from a coma, we're around. Thanks for joining us as one of your first acts as you came back to the world of the living. Happy to have you. Patrick Beverley in the end of the game with like a minute or so left. He's on the bench. There is a spot where he is getting into it with some Pacers fans. A basketball, I couldn't tell if it was the game ball or not from the clips I saw, and I'll be honest, I had the game on, but I did not catch this. I was looking down at something else at the time. But he basically had a basketball, and he threw it at some Pacers fans. Pacers fans threw it, more felt like they threw it back to him than at him.
Yeah,
and then he threw it back at them. And at one of the throws, he clipped a woman in the head.
The first throw, which he didn't throw as hard, and then he kind of like apologized or whatever and asked for the ball back, and then he really I mean, we all know what it looks like when you chuck a ball to hit somebody versus I'm going to throw it to you. He threw it to hit somebody.
Yeah. So we know the NBA comes out and basically Victor Wembanyama got fined for throwing a ball in the stands in celebration. So Patrick Beverley is certainly going to get fined for this. I would assume probably suspended too after this.
Sure.
I think that'll put him out whatever team he's on at the start of next year. If he's on a team at the start of next year, that's another thing we talk about. Probably going to miss it. I would say a minimum of a couple games after this. Then he's in the locker room post game. He's doing a scrum in front of his locker, very common thing unless it's a podium guy, which he was not. And in the scrum in the locker room, a reporter was asking him a question about basically like, hey, you guys were able to come back, but you couldn't get over the hump. Yeah, what could you have done different or whatever? That's the more irrelevant part. And Patrick Beverley turns and says to an ESPN producer who is there, and often what they'll do is they'll put non-writers, non-camera talent to help gather quotes because that's part of what needs to be done. There he is. He's checking in. Third co-host. So I'm sure I'll have a dog check in here momentarily too. So Patrick Beverley turns to her and says, hey, do you subscribe to my podcast? And she's like, do I? No, I don't. And he says, you can't interview me then. And then he turns away from her, turns his attention back to the person asking the question. She puts her microphone in there and he pushes the microphone away, not like forcefully or anything, but just kind of pushed it away, but I said, you can't interview me. Can you please leave the circle? And a bunch of people were like, well, he's being very respectful. He was saying, please. And he was saying, no disrespect meant. Okay, that doesn't matter. Like, those don't make an interaction respectful.
No.
It's insane that he did this. Then, since then, it has come out from several local reporters. Yeah, he told us when he arrived at the trade deadline, if you don't subscribe to my podcast, I'm not going to interact with you. You can't interview me. I won't answer your questions. It is beyond ridiculous, childish, loser behavior that he pulled last night, both with throwing the ball twice in the stands and then this nonsense after. Grow up. Like, absolutely ridiculous.
Hey, Keith, I think this is the part of what and look, you and I, we're part of the new media, right? We're not on ESPN doing a standard news style show. We're not doing that. We're not newspaper writers. We're part of the new media. But one of the things that I hate is the hot take culture where it's just, hey, all I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to say something outrageous that's going to get people to respond in one way or another. They're going to either agree with me strongly or disagree with me strongly, and that's going to get people talking about me and get more eyes on me. That's my sole goal. It's not honest analysis. It's not any of that. And I think Patrick Beverley, maybe to his credit, does a phenomenal job of that, just getting people talking about him, right? Getting people to talk about him, saying stuff that's crazy, doing things that are crazy, and he gets eyes and he gets attention on him. But the problem is, and you knew this was coming, at some point, somebody was going to do something that is so far over the line that rather than gain them attention, it's going to cost them attention. My hope is that more people are going out there and unsubscribing to Patrick Beverley's podcast right now than anything else, because you're right. That is absolutely gross. It was disgusting what he did, not just obviously with the reporter, but also throwing the ball at the fans. Now, again, I don't know what the fans were saying, but at no point should you be taking that to a physical place, particularly when you're throwing a basketball. He already hit a woman with the ball, first of all, and then he goes and chucks it right back at the fans. You don't know what kind of damage you can do. Yeah, you're frustrated, but hey, 2-year-olds get frustrated and throw temper tantrums and maybe lash out. You're an adult. You need to be better than that. It was absolutely ridiculous, and it made me wonder, Keith, we all know that with these players where stuff's going to come with them, right? There's going to be that baggage. There's a point where the game is no longer worth it. I wonder if we've hit that point with Patrick Beverley. What do teams think this summer? Like, do we want to deal with this next year? I don't think he's a terrible player. I think he could certainly still be on a roster next season. But does this make teams think twice? Do we want to put this guy on our roster knowing that at some point he's going to do something crazy and then we're going to have to deal with the fallout? Now, from what I've heard, to his credit, he did. And the producer did say that Patrick Beverley called her and apologized. The team called and apologized. If that was Patrick Beverley after the fact who realized, man, I made a mistake, and people do it. People make mistakes. If he said, I made a mistake, I feel bad. I've acted before in ways where I went after the fact, I'm like, damn, I really shouldn't have said that. And you go back and you apologize. If that was the team said, hey, we got a lot of flack on this, Pat, you need to call her and apologize. I don't like that's, yeah, that takes away to me a lot of the genuine nature of this. So it was appalling to see. And like I said, I hope that this is not something that's just another stunt that gets him more eyes on him. I hope that people are unsubscribing from Pat's pod.
Yeah, I have two other thoughts on it. I think the first piece is this is shameful on the Bucks. We are 3 months out from the trade deadline. If this nonsense has been going on, that he's been refusing to answer questions from the media unless they subscribe to his podcast, that's as much on the Bucks as it is on anybody else. They needed to have a PR person step in. Yeah, that's what the reporters have said. The local reporters said since he arrived at the trade deadline, he has been asking everyone, do you subscribe to my pod? And if somebody says no, he says, you can't interview me then. I'm not going to answer your questions. And then he's like, you will pet me and you will.
Oh yeah. No. He is he's very demanding. He is, he's a jerk. I love it. He really, I love him, but he's a jerk. This do the studio cat.
So is Patrick Beverley, but you don't love him.
I don't love him.
Jerk. Yeah. So here's my thing, right? That's on the Bucks then. You should not have been allowing this. Like, and I know people say all the time, we'll say they don't have to talk to the media. Yes, they do. It is collectively bargained. It is an NBA rule. It is part of the thing you agree to when you sign a contract, is that you need to talk to the media if the media requests to talk to you. Some guys can get away with never talking to the media because, quite frankly, they don't really care about talking to the 15th man on the roster or a guy's on a two-way contract and those kind of things. Generally, those guys are very accommodating. And I will say this, 99.9% of NBA players are fantastic with the media. They understand we have a job to do just like they do, and they're very good about answering questions, taking time. Sometimes they're answering questions until 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast after a game that ended at 10 o'clock, and they have to get on a plane to fly to the next city within a matter of an hour or so, and they take time to answer questions and be thoughtful and all those things. So I fully respect the vast majority of the guys, but you get the handful that decided, nope, I'm going to control this and I'm going to do what I want to do. Sorry, that's not how it works. Like you agreed to when you agreed to the contract to see your part through. Second part is just there is a sliding scale, as you were saying, of nonsense we will put up with versus your production and what kind of nonsense it is. If it's nonsense of you're just a goofy, wild, free spirit, all right, that's one thing. But like true, actual, like causing trouble, causing us headaches, all those things. That is a sliding scale versus your talent and production. And once it tips too far in the one direction, you're done. And teams just won't bother. Teams will move forward and say, we don't need this guy. We're out of here. So I don't know where this one's going to go. Yes, we don't need a bunch of people saying, Well, what about player X, Y, and Z? What they did is work. I get it. But every situation is its own thing. They're all handled individually. That's where it's going to go. My guess is there will be teams that will say, "Hey, we still think his defense and the way he fires people up and all that is worth signing him." But at this point, he's a minimum salary player, and a lot of people are going to say, we could just go with somebody else instead.
Yeah. Final thing that I've got on this is I'm tired of that's just Pat being Pat.
Yeah.
That's just Draymond being Draymond. That's just whoever being whoever. And we just kind of accept that, this is just how this person is, rather than them seeing the repercussions from their actions that they would see if they were basically anybody else. We just go, this is just that person being that. It's just the way that he is. It's like that really, I mean, this is so gross, that saying out there that if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah.
Which is just basically like trying to condone awful behavior.
Yeah.
We do the same thing when we go, it's just Draymond being, that's just how he is. It's just, no, like it's real simple. Like, don't be an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Michael Scott,
treat
famous
people
advice.
with respect. Like, it's really
not hard.
that simple. Treat people with respect. Like, it really is pretty easy. With that. Yeah. I'll pull this one up from our from Mike Wolf with the old school Trevor picture, mostly because the Trevor picture makes me laugh. But it is Kenny Poole and Marshawn Lynch. To an extent, he could say, "I'm only here," but the NBA doesn't put up with that. The NBA will step in and they will start finding players, because it says specifically. I shouldn't say specifically, because I'm not going to quote exactly, but the policy is basically you will have it's like a well-intended relationship with the media that enables them to do their job of covering and promoting the National Basketball League, its players, coaches, and blah, blah, blah. And just sitting up there won't pull that. So I'll tell a quick story. Marcus Morris several years ago said, "I don't do media pregame." And the NBA rule is if the players don't meet with the media at shoot around, they have to be available to meet with the media pregame, should the media request, right? And most times the media is pretty good about saying, "Hey, we're not going to push this too much," especially if it's like you're on a back-to-back in a new city, second night. They're not going to be like, "We need to talk to all 13 active players on the roster right now." Like, that's not generally a thing that's going to happen. But he would repeatedly pull, "I'm not doing media pregame." And enough media people finally told this when he's with the Celtics, told the Celtics either he starts doing it right or we're going to file a complaint. And guess what? He started doing it right because they filed a complaint. Then he would sit up there and he would kind of give 2-minute answers until I think it was one of the veteran beat guys was like, "Dude, we just have a handful of questions. Like, you're making it worse by doing this than just answering a couple of questions we had." But it's just, some of the guys think they're above it. Like, I don't understand. I'll say with this new CBA provision, why? The media members aren't part of the CBA. So,
but it's a joke.
Probably trying to get a joke off, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, by the way, this is a conversation for another day, but one of the things I'd like to talk about at some point is the post-COVID, the NBA went to a segregated media setup.
Yeah.
With media tiers, and you knew as soon as they did that and they used COVID as the excuse, they were never going to undo that. And now they use that to control access, which I think is so dangerous. But that's something else. That's a much bigger topic for us to get into.
And honestly, a lot of it depends on the team, depends on the location. Like here in Orlando, we get tremendous access, but it's a small market in the NBA. So it's not, there are often very few home beat folks here. There was, when I was going regularly to just about every Magic home game, there would be about 4 or 5 of us there at every single game. And then you'd have the road people, and you built a relationship with the players, the fans. I mean, we had a 15-minute conversation with Nick Vucevic one time about new Star Wars movies, because he's a big Star Wars fan. And it never went anywhere. It was just a conversation we were having while, quite frankly, we were waiting on Evan Fournier to come to speak to him. And Vooch was sitting there and he was like, "Do you guys need me tonight?" And we're like, "No, we're good." But they're like, "You going to see Star Wars tomorrow?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I already have my tickets for first thing in the morning." And we just had a long conversation with him. I mean, you get to know these guys, especially when you're in a smaller market, and that's part of the fun of it, right? It's media has a job too to remember these are human beings, and I do feel like one of the weirdest, oddest things we do is sticking a microphone right in a player's face right after they've suffered an extremely painful loss.
Sure.
But we've all agreed that's going to be kind of how it works, and I tend to give a lot of guys a lot of grace and a lot of leeway when they say things where it's like, man, they're hurting. Like, let them. Like, I get it. We want the kind of raw emotion out of these guys because we don't want it to be just canned quotes when they had a whole day to think about it. But it is tough. So you do want to give them a little bit of leeway with it. But
for sure.
All right, let's move on to more fun topics.
Let's go to a little bit of our nonsense real quick just to cleanse the palate here.
There it is.
Who are your favorite superheroes? I want to watch Marvel movies, but I don't know where to even start. I think Iron Man is pretty cool.
Start with Iron Man.
Start with the beginning, right? Start with the beginning. Go with Iron Man. Even go back and watch the Ed Norton Hulk. That was that one. It's not great, but it's worth watching. If you have Disney Plus,
you can watch it all in order. Now they have like a setting on there where you go and you just pick it and you go in order. So the reason why I say do that is it just everything builds on everything in a really cool way through like Infinity War and Endgame. After that, it gets a little wonky and sideways, but at least through that early part, everything builds and it builds on top of each other. And there's stuff, on the weekends you're flipping around. It's like, oh, okay, Age of Ultron's on. I'll just throw that on for the next 10 minutes or whatever. There are lines in there where I'm like, oh, that hits so much harder now because of the way that foreshadowed something in Civil War or something in Endgame or even another property. Like there's just stuff that pops from the earlier movies where you're like, oh, okay, now that all kind of makes sense. Like there's in the original Avengers, the first one, there's a part where Cap and Tony are fighting each other, and he says, "Put on the suit, like let's go." And it's like they're gonna fight at some point. Then eventually you see it happen, and it's like, oh yeah. So
it's the payoff. It's amazing how they set stuff up for the long term.
Yeah, I like Captain America. I know that probably makes me a basic dude, but I don't know. I like Captain America. Like he's I enjoy him quite a bit there. So
I didn't like the first Avenger was a little bit slow for me. But I thought, but of the Marvel movies that I go back and find myself rewatching, just if I'm scrolling through, like I've got time and I'm like, hey, I want to throw on one. Winter Soldier is one of the ones that pops up a lot. I really liked that one. That was really good. The Thor movies are obviously great, but my daughter watches Thor Ragnarok like on repeat. So I've seen so much.
It's a good one if you can.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. But yeah, I think if you just go in order, that's your best bet. Are there a few stinkers mixed in there? Yeah, probably. There's a few that are not so great, but there's a lot of really, really good ones. And I especially like that if you watch them in order too, you're going to get all of the end credit scenes can all kind of build into something as well as you go through. So
yeah, especially those early runs, like the early movies. Like, they all build up. We do have Shams tweeted about Pat Beverley, tweeted out that the fan was yelling Cancun on 3, and that's apparently what set him off. Like
why is that you're going to see far worse than that when he goes on to X or wherever? Like I get that worse on my Twitter replies every single day. Like I hear worse than that.
Yeah, and you're nicer than I am on Twitter, so that's a thing. But weird. But yeah, man. For the guy who asked the Marvel question, man, good luck. I'm jealous because I would love to experience all of that for the first time again. Like I would absolutely. And I didn't know a whole lot about a lot of it. I was not a.
See, this is why when I say he's kind of a jerk, this is Cat Beverley. This is what happens.
Yeah, there it is.
He doesn't, when he's somewhere you don't want him to be, he grabs onto everything. He doesn't just let you can't just pick him up. He goes, no, if I'm going to go where I don't want to go, I'm taking everything with me. And he grabs onto stuff.
You needed to hold him up and say Lion King. Come on now.
Like, right? Hold
You
him
messed it up like Simba.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, there it is. All right. I know we got a handful of other questions I came into.
Yeah. We've got
start getting into those and
yeah, let's do this. If you two could become Adam Silver for a year, what changes would you make to help teams with aging stars on big contracts stay competitive? Salary cap and shallow drafts have really affected teams.
My first thing I would do is make sure people know as Adam Silver, I don't have unilateral ability to do this. I actually have no ability to do this. That is a collectively bargained thing between the owners and the teams. The things people blame Adam Silver for are insane. They blame him for literally everything that happens in the NBA, and it's like 99% of it he's got almost nothing to do with. So, in the spirit of the question, I think when you get past the max salary for a player you drafted, so the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, they should only count into a certain level. I don't know what level it is towards the tax, not towards the cap. I think the cap is fine, but towards the tax. So if you wanted to say Stephen Curry makes 56 million, only 28 million of that counts towards the tax because he was a drafted guy. I have no problem with that. I think that would be a pretty great thing here. If we kind of move forward, that would give teams a lot more flexibility without completely unleveling the playing field of, hey, now we have Steph on a bargain deal and we have all this cap space. I think that would have unintended consequences that are really bad. But for the tax, I think you could do something like that.
Yeah, and I think you have to be careful with this kind of stuff because you're talking about how teams with stars that are getting older that aren't as productive anymore as a 28-year-old superstar. As that it's hard for them to go get pieces to add to put them up to the level of the teams that have the 28-year-old stars that are in their prime and all that. But the NBA's overall goal, I believe, under Adam Silver right now, they're looking at the NFL and going, that we want that. That's exactly, they want that kind of parity. They want that feeling that one year a team can be on the bottom, the next year they can be on the top with a few moves that go their way. That's what they ultimately want. That keeps fans bought in. They're going against they're actively trying to phase out super teams. Has it been successful yet? No, but we'll see as the new CBA rules kick in. That's what they're going for. Now, whether they're able to completely get rid of that, we'll see. But that's what they want. And in order to have that, that means there's going to have to be a cycle of you get good, you stay good, you contend, you drop back down, you come back up, and around and around you go. And that's what you're going to have. So I don't know that the NBA would even be all that interested in allowing a team that's got an aging star, a couple of aging stars, to have that kind of relief, to just continue to add to them and then just stay at the top. Because if one team stays at the top, that means another team is not rising up, and they want that constant churn of teams rising up. So you don't have a fan base that's sitting for 17 years or whatever and not seeing the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly not right now. Like the CBA, we keep calling it the new CBA. We're in year 2, but that's fine because some stuff's still being rolled in. So the new CBA, everybody focused on the teams that are up here. We are pushing them down, right? We're trying to put a clamp on how much they spend. But what got missed was the teams that were down here. I'm off camera, but like way down here got pushed up, and they're trying to push everybody closer because what they eliminated was, Warriors, Clippers, Suns, Celtics, Bucks. Those teams can't spend like crazy anymore, right? You can't just keep adding. But what they also did was the teams like the Pacers, the Spurs, the teams that had sat on 20, 30, 40 million in cap space going into a couple of seasons, you can't do that anymore. Now those have to come up. And when you brought those teams up, that's introducing a level of spending, because that's what they're really trying to do is, hey, we don't want you sitting on mountains of cap space, because that means we have players in the league who didn't get it, right? And we want players getting paid. But it is also, hopefully you're going to be smart, spend that wisely, and you're going to bring yourself into a place where everybody's more competitive. It's like in the NFL, right? I'm using an outdated thing, but it used to be they would say for a long time the goal was 32 teams that went 8-8. Like that would be the dream, right? Everybody's 8-8 and you play. It's really not, because you do want those really good teams that are really interesting, but it's let's put them in cycles, right? Just keep rolling through them, because that's what you really want to see. It was never the intention to have it be a spot where it was, all right, we just pulled in the guys to be everybody's on equal playing field at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So they love the dynastic teams and the great and the super teams, but they just want to cycle through those teams in a 5 or 6 year window where those teams fall back out and you figure it out. And then it's going to be, can somebody pull I'm going to use one of my favorite teams. Can somebody pull a Patriots in a system designed to not have a 2-decade long run, pull off a 2-decade long run? Good luck, because that took having, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback of all time and the greatest coach of all time on the same team, right? So good luck pulling that off and figuring it out. So we'll see, if that can be pulled out and where that ultimately goes. But that's going to be the, something that we'll see. Someone will figure something out where it'll be. Maybe it's OKC with have a young team, have 9 million draft picks, then you can keep churning and turning around those guys. Maybe they're going to figure something out. But right now, the NBA is trying to push everything to an even place.
And what it does is it makes it all the more beneficial if you can find a way to have a player on a contract that pays them significantly less than what they should get, which is tough to achieve, obviously, from team perspective. And players obviously don't want that. But if you have that, if you can get a guy that's making $2 million that should be making $15 million, that gives you the option to then go get another guy who's going to make $15 million, and off you go. And again, there's a sense of that where that rewards you for finding players and developing players, because those guys are going to be a little more cost controlled in the early going in their careers. And that's the path the NBA is going down. Now, I will say, when I first read this question, beyond getting into the allowing teams with aging stars to stay competitive, just getting into if you were Adam Silver for a year, what changes would you make? I'd get rid of. I would allow the ball on the rim to be playable. If I could just have carte blanche to go make whatever changes I want, that is one of the first things I would do. And I think I would, at this point, I would either drastically change the review system, or I would just crumple it up and I would punt it to the moon.
Yep, I'm with you on both. Definitely go to the European rules on goaltending. It's just much better, and it's easier on everybody involved: players, coaches, referees, everyone.
Yeah,
it's just play, and it's not that there's not goaltending. There is still goaltending. It's just when the ball's on the rim, you can pull it off. Like that's the difference. Yeah, you still can't block a shot that's directly going in. They still call goaltending. It's just the rebounds are live the minute they hit the rim. It's just easier. Okay, it's mostly easier because you get more points in offensive rebounds and putbacks because guys don't have to worry about it being in the cylinder.
I think it'd be fascinating to see how teams would adjust tactically to all that.
Sure.
JJ Castillo said Denver versus Minnesota round 2 is going to be the most physical, intense matchup based on how they play each other during the season. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome.
We should actually do. Let's let me pull. Let's do an accountability check.
Okay.
Pull up our playoff picks here from the first round. So let's see. We both said Celtics in 4, Celtics in 5. I jokingly had said Celtics in 3 was my joke, and I said, well, 4 blowouts minus 1 outlier loss, that equals Celtics in 3.
There you go.
We both said Cavs in 7, still in play. I said Bucks in 7. You said Pacers in 6. So kudos to you. I said Knicks in 7. You said Knicks in 6. So you get that one too. We both said Thunder in 6. Ended up being Thunder in 4. Yeah. I picked Clippers in 7. You picked Mavs in 6. I think you're going to be right on that one. I picked Suns in 6. You picked Suns in 7. We both couldn't have been more wrong. And then I picked Nuggets in 5. You picked Lakers in 6 with your heart. And I think you picked Nuggets in 6 with your brain. If I did not capture what the brain pick was.
That would have been it. It would have been Nuggets in 6. If you told me you're betting your house on it or something like that, that's the pick I would have made. You know what I mean? Like if there was something on it there.
So
I'll say this.
We did okay. We did all right.
I feel like I'm looking back now. and I feel awful about that Suns pick.
Yeah, me too.
About picking
yeah,
the Suns over the
and
Wolves,
everybody else.
but it's not just because it was so bad. I was the guy that was talking about the Wolves and how they were going to be better than people thought and everything. And why didn't I just stick with what I believed? Why did I forget that defense wins championships and that defense matters more in the playoffs? I let the regular season fool me in these matchups, and I shouldn't have. And I'm not going to do it this time as a little precursor here to how we're going to talk about this.
There we go. For everybody who was wondering, Trevor was the more of a believer. I did not have Minnesota even making the play-in tournament. We both thought Memphis would be better than what they ended up. And then they fell out. You did have Minnesota getting in there. So you were the bigger believer of the two of us early in the year. All right. So I think the kind of keys to this, and I will have some stuff up on Basketball Bulletin by tomorrow morning about this series and the other series that we know. I'm kind of hoping tonight maybe we get a little more clarity. Tonight just would be nice, then we would know. But if not, I'll take game sevens all day long. We'll not complain about getting game sevens. But my kind of keys to this are for the Timberwolves, can they, and I'm going to assume with all this, Jamal Murray is good to go, much like he was in game 5 against the Lakers, at least at that level. Can the Timberwolves slow Denver down enough without having to do crazy stuff that Jokic will solve and figure out? Meaning, can you just play mostly straight up and hold your own defensively? Who guards Murray is going to be a really big question. The obvious answer is Anthony Edwards, and I think he will guard him during any meaningful moments. Mm-hmm. The bigger question is, can he do it all game long and still give them 25, 30 points on offense? That's going to be hard to ask him to do. But that's my key there. Flip it to the other side. It is, can Denver keep them off the boards? Because Minnesota rebounded 40% of their own misses in half-court offense this year. Like, that's insane. So Denver's got work to do there. Like, you're going to need Jokic is a great rebounder. Aaron Gordon can be a great rebounder. You need him to be there. And can Kentavious Caldwell-Pope keep Anthony Edwards in check? And can they get anything out of their bench? The benches are going to be huge in this game. It's absolutely imperative that Minnesota wins the non-Jokic minutes and wins them by as many as they can. I am going to don't feel great about it. I'm picking Nuggets in 6. I think there's a chance this goes 7. And I think the Wolves have a great chance, but Nuggets in 6 just feels like the right pick to me.
So I am going to go Wolves, and I will go Wolves. The problem is Denver's the 2, and so they have home court in a game 7.
Yep.
But I'm going to say, because I do think it could go 7, but I'm going to say the Wolves get it done. I'll say they get it done in 6. I was not all that impressed with the Nuggets during the Lakers series. I thought they were good, but I didn't think they were significantly better than the Lakers. The Lakers were right there the whole time. I think the Wolves defense can cause some problems. I think Anthony Edwards is that good. The Cat against Aaron Gordon matchup is going to be really important. The Wolves have to win that matchup. I think the long limb defenders that the Wolves have, I think will be able to force some turnovers. Now, again, Denver is very, very good, but the Wolves, you talk about the bench, reigning 6th man of the year now, Naz Reid. I give the edge to the Wolves off the bench as well.
Yep.
And I trust Mike Conley to make enough smart plays down the stretch and in crunch time for the Wolves ultimately to get the win. So I've actually got Minnesota winning this series. We've had a new NBA champion each of the last, 4 years has it been? 4 years, 5 years in a row? We've had a new champ. I think the same thing's going to happen. I think the Nuggets get bounced by the Wolves here. And one of the things that's interesting is if you're the Nuggets, do you actually switch hunt Mike Conley with Jamal Murray? That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
You could. I mean, I would rather, if I'm going to get either Anthony Edwards or McDaniels switched on to me, and I don't know about you could obviously try for Cat. You can try to switch hunt Gobert. I think that's something that they'll certainly try to do. But I do wonder if they'll try to exploit Mike Conley a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, even though I think Conley can turn it up for a game or two and be a really good defender. That'll be something that'll be interesting to watch, but I was not all that impressed by what we saw out of Denver in round one. I was very impressed by what we saw out of the Wolves. And I think that ultimately, if we go to the benches, the Wolves bench is better. And so I'll give them the edge.
Something to keep an eye on. And I'll detail this a little bit more in the written piece on Basketball Bulletin. Keep an eye on Karl Anthony Towns being Jokic's primary defender to open games, with Gobert roaming off Aaron Gordon in a help position, just to make it a little bit harder on all that stuff that Denver likes to run, with Jokic coming in and basically putting a guy in the goal. Cat actually does okay in those circumstances. Where he struggles is when he has to step out and guard somebody on the perimeter that's going to put the ball on the deck and go by him. It is much better to see him go a little bit more physical body to body. He does better in those things. And there's not a better help weak side guy that's coming out of nowhere than Rudy Gobert right now. So just but I cannot wait. This should be
it's going to be fantastic.
Awesome. And just so everybody's wondering, we'll get into Knicks Pacers probably Monday. Yes. We'll get into the other series, but what if it ends up Celtics Cavs starting on Sunday, which how that would work is the Cavs win tonight at Celtics Cavs game 1 Sunday. If the Magic win Celtics Cavs game 1, I believe is Tuesday. So we'll get into those. And the Thunder, we already know that series is not starting till Tuesday, no matter what. Thunder are going to have been off for 2 weeks by the time they play again.
They're going to be rusty.
So, yeah, right. Yeah, that's rest versus rust right there. So, but we'll get into those series when we know them a little bit better. But yeah, this has a chance to be an all-timer. I cannot wait.
Michael Porter Jr. against Jaden McDaniels is going to be that could wind up being the X factor of the series.
On both ends,
there's on both ends. There's so many great matchups here.
Yeah, Porter has to defend. You can't just completely ignore McDaniels. You have to actually get out on him, and he's done a nice job of taking a couple of dribbles, getting into his about 12, 15-foot pull-up too. So I'm excited, man. That's going to be something. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, going to play a pretty big role in this one, guarding Jamal Murray. I think we're going to see him play quite a bit, as he's their best option for guarding Murray. So that's going to be fun.
For sure. See?
Yeah.
Cat against Aaron Gordon is going to be the big matchup. All right. Thoughts on Castleton? He said, I blame the Lakers season on JHS. He's joking. Hope you guys love you guys. Hope the Celtics lose always. Okay. Well, that's Lakers fans in general, right? Thoughts on Castleton?
I think your question stinks. There's my answer to that. Just because of your last part.
Because of the last part. We're all praying the dark timeline is averted, Keith.
No, I know. I would expect nothing less.
Exactly.
If I started seeing Lakers fans are you know what? We're actually rooting for the Celtics. That'd be it, man. Prepare for end times. They are here.
Right. There are some that I've seen, but it's mostly LeBron fans more than anything. Or if they're a recent Lakers fan in the last few years that didn't really feel the rivalry, but the LeBron fans too. There were LeBron fans that would pull for, if it was Warriors Celtics, they would pull for the Celtics because there's the Curry LeBron thing. So there was that element, but I don't want to get into all the intricacies of Lakers fandom. As far as Colin Castleton goes, I think he's good. He's probably too good for the G League. He puts up big numbers there. Is he good enough for the NBA? That's yet to be seen. I think he's got to get a lot stronger. He gets moved way too easily in the post. He's got to develop that mid-range jumper a bit more. But he's a good kid, and I hope that he can get a look. I'm intrigued by his ability to pass as a big man. He's got that kind of skill set that is not what you typically see from his position. The question is, can he put together the typical big man stuff to a degree where that's going to matter? And that's, it's a big summer ahead for him in terms of trying to make that next step.
Yeah, I have a little bit of worry that he's going to be the equivalent of a 4A guy in baseball, which is too good for the G League, not quite good enough to be an NBA regular. But those kind of guys sometimes carve out a 10-year career in the NBA where they're kind of bouncing back and forth, or they land the third center spot. And what I did like was he was very aggressive on being an inside scorer in the G League this year. I actually just finished my final film review on the Lakers two-way guys as I'm writing up free agent blurbs. I watched their two-way guys this week just to really get a sense of where they. He was really good as far as establishing position, playing physical, and all that. Shot 100% from three this year. He was 1 for 1, but he's got nice touch. There's no reason why in the next 2 years he can't be a good shooter from 15 to 18 feet and then eventually pull that out to the 3-point line. I think he's got that ability to do that. The biggest question is he going to hold up defensively? What does give me hope is he was aggressive in some games going after shot blocks in a way I hadn't really seen before. It resulted in fouls and things like that, but he really got after it that way. I also really enjoyed, he was really strong on the glass in the G League this year. And that tends to be a skill that translates from level to level to level because so much of that is about position, effort, and desire. And I don't think that's something he'll lose. Like, I'm not saying he's going to come in and be Andre Drummond and win rebounding titles, but I think he's a guy who eventually you can get to in the NBA where it is, hey, we need 10, 12 minutes out of you tonight. You can put him on the floor and you'll probably be okay. I don't know if it's next year. I think it might be 3-4 years. Bigs sometimes take a little bit longer to develop, but there's a player in there. And my guess is, let's see what Summer League does. Let's see what the Lakers roster build looks like. There's probably a place for him to return as a two-way player with the Lakers. We'll see. Clearly, he would like more, and he should. That's where he wants to be. But it'll be interesting to watch how that comes together.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does in Summer League. I think he's an interesting prospect. He does tend to not chase the blocks as much when he's playing in the NBA level. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if part of that is he doesn't want to commit the foul. He doesn't want to be out of position. He's focusing more on not making mistakes. I'm curious to see what will look like when he's playing a little bit freer when he does get NBA minutes, because he does seem a little bit, he doesn't play with the same fluidity or looseness to his game as he does in the G League when he's in the NBA.
He's thinking through everything. Like just trying to think through. On JHS, I mean, I know this was said in joking. Big summer for him too. First, get healthy, get recovered.
Yes,
but got to come back, better. That's a kid, whether it be for ever playing a role with the Lakers or just as a trade piece to throw into a future deal. They'd like to see him show something. He is a better player than the very minimal he showed with the Lakers. It just was the season that never got going for him. So I'm hopeful he'll I'm so hopeful he's going to figure it out and become a pretty good player. Because you know what's going to happen? We're going to hear forever, why didn't they take Jaime Jaquez? He was right down the road at UCLA. Like, I've already seen it, and that'll be the next 10 years, right? Of why didn't we just draft Jaquez? Why, he was right there. Like, why didn't we pick him? So that's the we'll see, where it goes with that.
What could have been. Smokey said, "What's up, Keith and Trev? I've been thinking about it. Lakers should target Mikal Bridges. I think he fits a lot better. Hope you both have a blessed Friday." Well, we appreciate the message and the kind words there. I like Mikal Bridges.
I love the idea.
Yeah, I just don't know that the Nets are going to move on from him or not, even if we think maybe they should. I don't know that they are. They've turned down deals that are reportedly pretty significant. So
just in what we're referencing there was very widely reported. They turned down all of their own picks back from the Rockets for Mikal Bridges at the trade deadline. So that's the Lakers can't touch better than that at the moment, without getting stupid, which they clearly wouldn't do. I like the concept though. We had another question about, should the Lakers go after? Do you see it? I start it. Maybe I can find this one. I got it.
Oh, here. Going after Robert Williams III for our center position and putting AD back to the 4. Would you entertain something like that?
Here's my issue with this. One, I don't dislike the idea. I think him and AD could be. I mean, that'd be devastating as a backline defense. I don't know how you would score around the rim on that. Lakers fans would also love that. Would hurt Celtics fans to the bone if you did that. I think here's your challenge: is that means LeBron has to play the 3. LeBron's not a 3. So whatever you're gaining on the interior, you're giving up on the perimeter. Like that is, I've been saying this for almost 2 years now. AD playing the 5 is a lot less about AD being a 5, which I tend to think now in today's game AD is a 5, but it's a lot more about LeBron's a 4. He's not a 3 anymore. Like he can't do that game to game anymore. So that's the challenge there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And with Anthony Davis not shooting the 3 nearly as well anymore, that's a big part of it too. Your offensive fit is a challenge. I do think you need a backup though. You need a true physical. This season showed it. You need a true physical, big-bodied backup 5 that you can throw in there. And it, again, doesn't have to be the best player ever, but you need a physical presence that you can put in there. That's not Jackson Hayes. That's not Christian Wood.
And you need somebody. Not trying to be pessimistic, but you're getting 75 games out of AD again next year.
No, not with him playing with Team USA.
Yeah, you need somebody who can come in and play pretty good for probably somewhere in the range of 20 games. Just
well, hey, Dwight is openly campaigning for the Lakers to call him. Did you see that going around?
Like, no, I saw legit. It was in your post game shows. Legit fans who were like, if we had Dwight, we'd beat the Nuggets. Okay.
You need a big physical presence. I don't think it's Dwight. Yeah, the Dwight from 2020, sure, but you're not getting that. But he's got a new video where he's like singing that the Lakers should come give him another shot and stuff.
Sure.
It's funny.
Sure. All right, let's rip through because we
got a few because we're already at the hour mark here.
We'll rip through these last few.
Zen said Lakers trade for Ingram. Well, that would be ironic, but I don't know what you're going to trade for him. I don't know that you have enough to. Well, I mean, I guess if we're talking a Trae, like who has more value, Brandon Ingram or Trae Young?
Yeah, it's very team specific.
Right.
There, I would say in a vacuum, Trae Young. Just you don't have the health concerns. Trae Young suffered his first ever injury this year, real injury. Brandon Ingram tends to miss a good chunk of time. So yeah, I would probably go this. I just don't know how you get him. Like you're gonna match 30 million in salary. Well, that's a Rui and Reeves deal.
And the Pelicans have incentive for the Lakers to be bad, assuming they take the 2025 pick and not 2024, which is what I believe will happen. So I don't think the Pelicans would be very wary of doing anything with the Lakers that could hurt the value of that 2025 draft pick too. So you have to add that, to the context of the whole thing.
Yeah. Top 3-and-D options in free agency, guys that could really be there. Gary Trent Jr., Gary Harris, are a couple guys who are out there. Caleb Martin potentially. If he doesn't opt in. Isaac Okoro, restricted free agent, but he's somebody that could be available. Royce O'Neal is another guy. Torrey Craig is someone that you could look at, especially for cheaper. Najee Marshall is another guy. So definitely options for 3D guys if that's where you're thinking your team needs to go.
All right. This one, Jason said, are you guys going to talk about the TV deal and likely losing inside the NBA? That may be a bigger conversation for us to talk about.
Yeah, let's do a very quick catch up on it.
Yeah.
Just so everybody kind of knows where things are at. So the NBA has 2 agreements, let's just call them in place, whether it's framework or they're just like, hey, we're just going to sign this thing. With ESPN, sounds like ESPN is going to actually keep the NBA, but potentially reduce a little bit the number of games that they carry. Then the other big one that we know for certain is with Amazon. And we don't know what Amazon... Oh, play the breaking news drop.
Oop.
This one's going to put you to work, my friend.
Let's go.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Darvin Ham has been dismissed as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, according to Woj. So, you're muted. Trevor is still on mute. We'll get him off mute. You're still on mute, my friend.
Oh. I told you he's a jerk. Cat Beverley came along and pulled the plug on my mic.
I love it. Shams is now checking in. Shams adds with Jovan Buha, an extensive search will commence soon with candidates such as, that's where it cut off, Mike Budenholzer, Kenny Atkinson, JJ Redick, and if he becomes available, Ty Lue, among others. So not necessarily unexpected. We all knew Darvin Ham was going to be gone, I think, or at least we all thought that's where we go. And not no super unexpected names out of that list. I think we've heard all of them mentioned before. So, but there we are. Darvin Ham gone as the Lakers head coach.
And there we go. This is oh yeah, Dan Wojcicki confirming, everybody confirming. That's it.
Yeah.
I went ahead and published the video over on the Lakers Nation side that I pre-recorded. Darvin Ham's gone.
Thought you might be able to be safe to pre-record that one, or it just never ever got seen, right? It just went off to the annals of the internet. So there you go. And speaking of,
did I already upload that? I had like 30 minutes yesterday, and I was like, what can I do that would be productive? I know I'm going to create the video on Darvin Ham getting fired, and I'm going to do that. Right.
All right. We were in the middle of talking about the TV contract. We will spend a lot more time on this when we know the details. But here's what it sounds like we're down to, just to do this very quickly while Trevor catches up and it's everybody assigned to doing what they need to do, because obviously the Lakers Nation team is going to be extremely busy the rest of the day. We know Amazon, we know ESPN. There is a third chunk of games that will go. It sounds like it is the Turner package of games that we see on TNT right now. So it's between Warner Brothers, Discovery, and NBC. They seem to be the two bidders. It sounds like NBC may have a leg up. There's also an option where TNT keeps games, but TNT has a very reduced package of one night a week and no playoffs, because that's the big thing, right? As much as all these places want games throughout the year to fill programming slots, they want playoff games. That's what people tune into. That's what people watch. So there's a potential we end up with a 4-way split of this. There's still the potential they say, nope, we're good. We're going to go with NBC, and off we run. What came out on the heels of that are the inside guys going to go to Amazon or to NBC? Could they go to ESPN? All of them, it sounds like, have an out in their contract that says, hey, if you don't have the NBA, we don't stay. But Ernie Johnson already came out and said, I'm staying. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Turner is home for me. He also does baseball stuff for them. He does some other sports for them. So he will stay. So we don't know where that's going to go, but that's where that is going to go with that. So.
All right.
The rest of these are
chiming in saying Ham is fired. Yes, we know.
Yes,
we talked about it.
Yeah, and we hit on it.
I've already got the whole Lakers Nation team messaging me about what we're going to go do.
There it is.
After this. So just,
all right, we will wrap it up here. There's a couple left. Realistic odds: 76ers get PG or a player of his ilk. Pretty good, I would say. That seems like where they're heading for this. That seems like, whether it's PG or just another guy, there's now been rumors, guys who are under contract. Remember, cap space can be used in trades too. So 76ers are coming away with somebody big this summer, whether it's PG or somebody else, where they're going to get there for sure. Do we know what Chicago is doing? Can the Lakers get Caruso back? That's more realistic than a lot of other targets, just because he's making a ton of money. So there's that part of it. My guess is Chicago keeps him, though, strictly because of he doesn't make a lot of money. So why not? But do we know what they're doing? No. Who knows? I'll tell a very quick story. I'm doing the offseason previews for Spot Track, and I'm counting them out, and I'm like, I'm missing one. Like, what am I missing? I completely skipped the Bulls. Like, completely skipped them in my as I'm building
on
the
subconscious level. You're just like, F this team. I don't even want to talk about them.
If you want to be stupid and forgettable, then you are now stupid and forgettable. And I hadn't written theirs yet. It's not time for theirs yet, but I was building my outlines for them. And I was like, I'm not adding up. I'm missing one. And it was the Bulls. And then this last one, I assume this is in relation to Darvin Ham being fired. The Lakers can't sign Paul George. Not going to happen. Like
They don't have cap
no
space.
realistic path to that. Not even a sign and trade, because that would put them up and over the aprons and everything else. I will also say, with that, somebody else said, what if LeBron takes only 25? It's not going to happen. LeBron's going to take the max he can.
And it doesn't matter, even if he took.
Yeah, I think he was saying, would that open up the full mid-level? There's other paths to the full mid-level.
The full mid-level, sure.
So, yeah, but he's not taking more on that. So,
yeah.
But there it is, man. You called it. You said maybe we get breaking news before the end of the live show. And here we are. Now it's funny. We've got 5,000 people watching, because they're probably like, Trevor, talk about Darvin Ham getting fired. Which is amazing. We love you guys. It's 2 p.m. on a Friday, and you guys are 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m.
Right.
Pacific, and you guys are here showing up for us, man. We love you guys. You guys are the best.
Yep, absolutely. If you're over on the YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're on X, check out the YouTube channel for the NBA Front Office Show. We certainly do appreciate it. Again, don't forget to subscribe. We're going to keep you up to date with all the breaking news and all that. I am going to go live with Matt the Optimist Peralta in like 5-10 minutes here. Yeah, that's happening. That's coming. The emergency live stream, that's going to be coming in mere moments. I'm going to get Stu the studio cat out of here because he wants lunch, and then that's why he's being such a butthead today. But we're going to do that, and then I'll get that show going. So be on the lookout. That's coming in just a few moments.
All right, guys, we love you all. Thanks for checking in with us here on the Friday. If you're new, because we had a flood of people here in the last little bit. If you're new, we do this every single Friday, right around noon to 1 to 2 Eastern. We every Friday is a live show where it's your show. We answer your questions and get in everything. We have a lot of fun, and we've got a ton of stuff planned as we creep closer to the offseason and free agency. We've got all sorts of great content coming. So now is the time. Get subscribed here. Enjoy it. Let Trevor go feed his cat, and then get over to doing what I imagine is going to be a joyful celebration of a live show for the vast majority of Lakers fans.
That's right.
Here. So we're excited, man. We love you guys. Thanks for showing up and hanging out with us today.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Till next time. See ya, and stay safe.